global Tesla takedown. I got this in email this morning. Saturday, March 29th will be the largest series of protests yet. As of Thursday morning, there are 213 scheduled, including the UK, Germany, France, Norway, New Zealand, Australia. Protests are planned in 100% of the Tesla dealerships in a dozen or more states. And this thing is going viral. Meanwhile, our buddy Dean Obeidallah, the dean, my colleague right here on Free Speech, or excuse me, on Sirius XM channel 127, Progress channel, whose show is on from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern time every day. His Substack newsletter, the Dean's Report, which if you haven't subscribed to, it's absolutely free. It's just brilliant. DeanObeidallah.substack.com, or just go over to substack.com and plug in Dean's Report. It'll pop right up and you can subscribe for free. Tesla dealership attacks are happening for one reason, writes Dean. And Dean Obeidallah, the man himself, is on the line with us. Hey, Dean. So what is that reason?
That reason is Donald Trump. And we talked about it, I think, last night. You were on my show last night. I think we touched on it a little bit. Donald Trump created a climate in America where political violence is acceptable. And he was not held accountable for his January 6th attack. He is pardoned the terrorists. After the January 6th terrorist attack, he praised his terrorists as patriots, as hostages. He talked about they should get compensation. He opened his rallies with the J6 choir. So he celebrated those people who committed violence on his behalf. And Tom, as I talked about yesterday, look, we're human beings. If you see one side in politics using violence and getting away with it and actually winning battles with it, well, then the other side goes, well, why can't we do that? And I'm against violence, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying this is human nature. So Donald Trump is the first president we ever had who engaged in attack on our own Capitol, defended the attackers, praised them, as opposed to every other president who's denounced political violence across America at any time. Not him. So he has normalized political violence, and the chickens have come home to roost, and that's what you're seeing at Tesla dealerships.
Yeah, and you point out that this didn't just start on January 6th. This goes back to 2016.
Yeah, Donald Trump made, at the time, he doesn't read about fascism, Tom. He doesn't even know, now he probably does know what that is. His instincts were violence is acceptable if it's helps me. If it's on my behalf. So at his rallies, people remember 2016 campaign rallies. If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, punch him in the face. I'll pay for your legal fees. Defending people who committed violence at his rallies over and over and over. Donald Trump wanted violence. He was using violence as a weapon. That is one of the traits of fascist movements. Academically speaking, that is one of the traits. The use of violence to acquire or retain political power. Donald Trump has been engaging in that since 2016. It culminated on January 6th. And now they're upset that some people, and it's wrong, but some people are using violence against Donald Trump's top political donor and the man who made Donald Trump win this election. We all know, without Musk, Trump's not in the White House right now. So this is where we are.
Do you think it's appropriate to call property destruction violence? I mean,
it's vandalism. I think that
doesn't violence suggest, a human victim?
Sure. It does. And this is vandalism, but they're calling it domestic terrorism. Pam Bondi's very upset. Kash Patel, the FBI director, actually helped produce the J6 choir song of January 6 terrorists singing the Star Spangled Banner, where Donald Trump was a part of. Kash Patel, the current FBI director who called the people in jail political prisoners, has started a task force to investigate people who are doing any kind of damage at Tesla dealerships. But, Tom, as I know in my article, on Saturday, a self-professed Trump supporter drove his vehicle slowly but still intentionally into about 150 protesters peacefully in West Palm Beach, Florida. Most of the people there were seniors. The guy was arrested and charged with felony intention using a deadly weapon. He didn't hurt anyone, thankfully, but that was his intent. You haven't heard Pam Bondi talk about him. You haven't heard Trump talk about him. You haven't heard Kash Patel. So it continues. The message is, if you commit violence for Donald Trump, he's got your back. You're on the team. If you commit violence against Donald Trump's or vandalism against Donald Trump's political allies, they're going to come for you. And Tom, they're going to come for people who are peacefully protesting as well. We are seeing it now with your great newsletter today. People just disappearing. If you speak in ways this administration doesn't like, they're going to make you disappear. They're doing it now to non-citizens. They will come around. They will get to us. They've unleashed this. So people who go to Tesla dealerships, they're going to come for you.
My sense of this, Dean, and we've seen this in country after country, is that you start at the bottom, right? The first people that Hitler went after were the trans people. in the first weeks after he became chancellor in 1933. He shut down the Institute for Sexology in Berlin, and that was the big book burning that everybody has seen the picture of. And it was trans people that he went after first. They're the least popular, as it were, the least numerous, frankly, minority group. And of course, the Trump campaign did the same thing. In fact, when he ran for president in 2024, this last year, most of the attacks against Kamala Harris had to do with trans people. Then they go after the next step up. Okay, who are the second, most vulnerable or least embraced group? And that would be immigrants. And in this case, it's students on student visas or with green cards. And so now, and they're trying to terrorize the universities. And inevitably, I can't think of a single country where it has started this way and it hasn't ended up with them going after citizens. Can you?
Certainly. And when you use Hitler as sort of an instruction manual or a playbook, within 3 to 4 months of Hitler becoming chancellor in 1933, the first group he put in concentration camps were political prisoners, political opponents, dissidents, communists and socialists, or anyone who spoke up to Hitler. Of course, the night of the Long Knives, the blood purge, they actually killed people who were, I guess, Ninos, Nazis in name only in the view of Hitler. They actually killed people who were once his allies, some of his closest allies, who were no longer loyal.
Yeah.
Right. This is where it goes. There is zero doubt. Who was gay, but that's not why. That probably made it easier because he was openly gay, but it didn't matter. He was the head of the SS. He was a very powerful man who helped Hitler's rise to power. But like Saddam Hussein, there's a moment where your loyalty is questioned and the answer is you disappear. This is where Trump is going, and that's why I beg people to care about Mohammed Khalil. A few weeks ago, the guy has a green card. He has just about all the rights as a U.S. citizen, really on paper, everything. And it didn't matter. And some people didn't want to engage in it because they thought it had to do with the politics of the Middle East. It has nothing to do with the Middle East. It has everything to do with the United States of America. Wake up. Donald Trump is an authoritarian figure. I just had Mark Zaid on my show. They took a security clearance. He did nothing. He's the lawyer who does whistleblower cases, just on yesterday. And he said what Trump is doing against law firms is the most un-American thing he's seen, because he's not only attacking the judges, he's attacking lawyers who are really good law firms who will represent clients against this administration. Trump has thought this through, or the Project 2025 people have thought this through. Not just judges go after lawyers as well. A chilling effect on law firms. They don't want to go after the Trump administration. We're in a very precarious place 2 months in. Very, very precarious.
They pulled an attorney's law license for
security clearance.
Oh, security clearance.
Security clearance, and also with the Covington law firm, with Paul Weiss, who surrendered, and Perkins Coie, and they just did another law firm Andrew Weissman works at. It's not just taking security clearance. It's saying you can't do any business if you are a contractor and that law firm is representing you. We are no longer giving you business.
Right.
It is blackmail. And they directed their DOJ to investigate these law firms to see if they're hiring using DEI and giving benefits to, quote, preferred races. They are weaponizing the government in front of us against lawyers so that no one will be there to represent you that's well-known or powerful. There's still some great lawyers who are in small firms. Mark Zaid, one of them, and they took his security clearance. He did nothing against Trump, but he did represent a whistleblower that was involved in the first impeachment.
Right.
So now, all these years later, he goes after Mark Zaid.
I understand they're also saying that you may not enter federal buildings, which would include federal courthouses, presumably?
Yes. Yeah, that's what Mark said. I wasn't sure. Exactly. Mark said it would be unbelievable if you can't go to a federal courthouse. Now, look, the Perkins law firm challenged it, and Judge Beryl Howell wrote an opinion, putting in a temporary restraining order and saying things like, it gives me shivers down my spine to see this go on a bedrock foundation of our justice system, which is picking a lawyer you want. What Trump is doing is going after firms who represent his political enemies. Nixon just went after his enemies. Trump is going after people who work with his enemies, and it's a different level. And the judge said this line about, this cannot be the reality we're living. And that line stayed with me because it is the reality we're living. This is it. There's no drill. There's no fire drill. There's no coming attractions. It is worse. And I warn people for what it's worth. I'm not saying it's, oh, I'm right. It was going to be worse than you want to imagine. Yeah. Not that you can imagine, but that you want to imagine. Now, don't let your failure of imagination is the only thing standing between us and understanding where this is going. So you talk about Hitler, I think is important. Same thing, me or Mussolini or Viktor Orban in Hungary. Project 2025 is literally following that playbook of Viktor Orban. So where Orban's going, which he just banned the Pride Parade, is where they're going. And by the way, Tom, just before you came on, J.D. Vance was attacking the publication The Jewish Insider, which is not a liberal publication, it's a Jewish publication, calling it anti-J.D. rag. So now they're beginning to sort of turn up anti-Semitism, because that's what's going to lead to. And Elon Musk already has issues with anti-Semitism. You're going to see it weaponized on the right. They don't care about Jewish students. They care about silencing dissent. They've weaponized anti-Semitism in name, but they're going to turn on Jewish Americans. So they know 80% of Jewish Americans voted for Vice President Harris. They're coming for all of us who didn't support them.